At this point, making these almost feels like I'm trolling. Like it's all just been one massive joke, because for the past 4 years, I've been making these top new MMOs coming out this year series, and a vast majority of the games we've talked about here haven't come out. All starting back in 2018 when we were anticipating the releases of Crowfall, Ashes of Creation, Pantheon, Lost Ark, and Bless Online. The first 4 games on that list simply didn't release. Now, I may have jumped the gun on those crowdfunded games in particular, although to be fair, Pantheon started development in 2014, Crowfall 2015, and Ashes 2016, and I figured there was at least a snowball's chance one of them might release. As for Lost Ark, that was a bit of a pipe dream. The game was just looking so damn good, especially back then, that a quick Western release would have been amazing. Now, Bless Online did release from that list, but I think it's safe to say we all would have been better off if it hadn't. That was just so damn bad. I guess it shouldn't have been that surprising. Given that it had already failed in 3 regions, it turned out the 4th time wasn't the charm. So 2018 was a wash. Well, how was 2019? That year's list saw the return of both Crowfall and Ashes of Creation, as well as the new additions of Torchlight Frontiers, Conqueror's Blade, and World of Warcraft Classic. And for the 2nd year in a row, Crowfall and Ashes of Creation didn't launch, and this is likely going to be a running theme for both games in the coming years. Conqueror's Blade did come out, but that turned out to not really be an MMO. Torchlight Frontiers changed from an MMO to a traditional ARPG. Along with that, it got renamed to Torchlight 3, and while Classic, well, that was great, honestly. Or bad, I guess, depending on how you look at it. I basically lost a solid 2 months of my life stepping into a time machine straight back to 2004. Classic was honestly a hell of a lot of fun, easily one of my favorite and best MMO experiences of that year, but it was also the re-release of a 15-year-old game, so didn't actually qualify as a new MMO. So 2018 and 2019's list didn't really pan out. Surely 2020's was better. Right? Can't even fucking say it with a straight face. 2020 was, well, 2020. Things were actually pretty exciting when I first put that list together, because we had a handful of brand new games that kind of popped up out of nowhere that we were looking forward to. There was New World, which was just absolutely gorgeous, promised this big open world with Souls-inspired combat and a mix of survival, PvP, and PvE elements. There was Corepunk, this top-down MOBA-like MMO with what I think is just a killer visual style. Magic Legends, a Magic the Gathering themed MMO, Crimson Desert, which at the time was said to be a brand new MMO from the creators of Black Desert Online, and then Lost Ark made its way back on this list because I figured, hey, it's been several years, it's about time, right? And not a single one of those games released. New World's launch went from the plan of May to August to some point in 2021. Corepunk's planned end of the year beta just never happened. Magic Legends went the way of Torchlight Frontiers and is no longer called an MMO. Same with Crimson Desert, actually. The developers have decided that's no longer going to be called an MMO either. And as for Lost Ark, well, it's still not here, although Amazon has taken reins as the Western publisher. There's still no word on a release date at the moment. So the past 3 years have been pretty rough for those of us waiting for a new MMO to play. So how is 2021 looking? Okay, I guess. First off, I gotta say, there's no big surprises here. Most of the games slated to release or to be playable this year, you've likely already heard of. In fact, if you've been paying attention to this video up until this point, I guarantee you've heard of these games, because I've already just talked about them. So I'm not gonna blow your mind with the reveal of some like massive next-gen MMO that just got announced and is gonna take the world by storm. That's not gonna happen. because it doesn't exist. Everything we're about to talk about, we've been talking about for some time, but regardless, I do think there are some things to look forward to here. And what I want to do is go over what we can expect this year, namely what's coming for sure, what might be coming, and I also want to touch on some of the updates and expansions planned for some of the already established MMOs. You know, we often call it the Big Five. First, let's talk about what new MMOs are coming for sure. So starting things off, we've got New World. This is the game on this list that I've probably talked about the most on this channel. And I think because it's probably one of the better looking brand new things that seem to be releasing at some point soon. And there's been a lot of interesting updates and changes over time. So this is Amazon's first of many upcoming attempts at diving into the MMO genre. They're actually working on 3 MMOs simultaneously at different parts of their studio right now. But when it comes to New World, I gotta say, when this thing was first revealed, I was incredibly pumped. The setting, the visual style, just the overall look of the game, the promise of this heavily Souls-inspired combat, a focus on open world PvP, the entire package of New World and what they were talking about seemed really promising to me. It's got this third-person action combat where you have to aim your skills and attacks. There's weapon swapping to offer different variety in the game. And while there are no classes per se, there is customization and kind of roles that you can fill, mainly through the weapons that you pick, as well as the corresponding armor you wear and how you spend your attribute points. The whole game is set on this large island. It's one big seamless open world. There are 0 loading screens unless you fast travel. There's a big focus on this territory control where the game is made up of several zones or territories, and guilds fight for control of those territories so that they can own the settlements. The settlements are these player-run towns owned by the guilds where you're going to go to meet quest NPCs and find crafting stations and do trading with other players. Guilds will have to defend these settlements from being attacked by other guilds and the various factions in the game. There's also what they're calling 5-player group content. This is through stuff like these corrupted breaches. There's some open world bosses. They say that they have raid style content planned. What was in the preview event wasn't all that engaging or interesting in a traditional raid sense that you might expect from an MMO, but they've been working on stuff. They've been improving the AI. They've actually been doing a lot of improvements, and I think that's why I keep talking about this game and I keep making new videos, because yes, it looks amazing. Yes, I spent a lot of time and had a decent amount of fun in the preview event, and even though it isn't like offering the traditional MMO package in what a lot of us probably play and enjoy to this day, that could be a good thing. Like, we don't just want a cookie cutter of all the same features that are in WoW or ESO or Guild Wars or Black Desert or whatever, because those games have come and gone in throngs. There have been so many games trying to emulate the exact formulas, and even though, I don't know, I think the fact that they're at least doing some of their own thing is good, because at least it offers some variety, and instead of just going back and treading the same ground that we've done. I'm not saying New World is looking amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but it at least has caught my attention. And a lot of the updates and the videos that I've made about this game over the course of this year and a half or so that I've been covering it are pointing in the direction that they're trying to make this thing as good as it can be. They're listening to community feedback. They've made a lot of changes and adjustments, not only to the game's combat and how the systems work, like the weapon swapping cooldown thing, but also just the systems within the game, and the content that they're delivering has been improving on the PvE side of things, at least. I'm not sure how the PvP crowd's feeling about this game so far. New World is the first MMO that we're expecting to play for sure in 2021. What else? Well, we have this game PSO2 New Genesis. Yes, PSO2 as in Phantasy Star Online 2, but this isn't an expansion. It's not a sequel. It's not a remake. New Genesis apparently aims to create what they are calling the ultimate PSO2 experience, in which time-tested elements are kept intact while some of the design, overall gameplay, and graphics engine are completely revamped. Are you confused? Me too. Apparently, this is going to coexist with Phantasy Star Online 2, but it's not meant to be a replacement. So both PSO2 and PSO2 New Genesis are what they are calling twin universes. They're working side by side. You can carry your character across the games, but not your character's progression. Still pretty freaking confused. What's different about this thing? Well, besides the overhaul graphics and everything, the game is said to be much more of an open field experience. They're going to feature much larger environments for you to explore and fight in. PSO2 is a game that's, what's the best? They're like combat arenas, basically. You go in, you do kind of like, I don't know if you've played the early Monster Hunters and stuff. Not so much World, well, maybe World, because it's, I don't know. They're combat arenas, you load in, you fight, and then you get like S tier or you suck. And then you load out and you boot up a new location, essentially. So they're going to be much more open in New Genesis. Again, the graphics are getting a complete overhaul. They also say various game systems, but I haven't found many details as to exactly what. And there's also a brand new character creation engine with a ton more options for customization for you. PSO2 New Genesis, not an expansion, not a sequel, a parallel game. It's going to be free to play like PSO2, and it's scheduled to come to the Xbox and PC at some point in 2021. Even though recently the coverage I've done of PSO2 was sponsored content. So they were sponsored videos, yes, but I'm glad I had the motivation through having that sponsored content to check it out, because Phantasy Star Online is a game series that I've always heard about. It has its roots in like the origins, the early versions of online multiplayer games of MMOs, really. And so I'm glad I checked them out. I had a decent time for a game as old as PSO2 is. I had a decent time playing it. Like it was a decently fun experience, I do have to say. So I'm genuinely actually interested and might be checking out PSO2 New Genesis. Still confused. It's not an expansion. It's not a sequel. It's not a fuck is it? Next up on the list of new MMOs that you can play in 2021, we've got the Burning Crusade Classic. Following the success of World of Warcraft Classic's release in, 2019, a classic version of the game's first expansion has been all but officially confirmed. So rumors about this thing have been swirling around for quite some time. These rumors supported by various surveys that Blizzard has sent out. As of now, the expectation is that the game is going to be officially announced at BlizzConline, which is happening on February 19th and 20th, and that the beta will be taking place shortly thereafter. So we should be playing the beta of this at some point late February or March. This is all really kind of lining up with the cadence of content updates that WoW Classic has been getting since it released. Basically comparing how the patches have rolled out for Classic WoW to how the patches rolled out in original WoW back in 2004 and 2005, leading up to the original release of Burning Crusade. It's all lining up for Classic Burning Crusade to be happening this spring or summer, essentially. And you know what? Sounds good to me, dude. Like, I'm totally down to go back to the Outlands. We're gonna get both factions now having access to Paladins and Shamans, the introduction of the Blood Elf and Draenei races, arenas started in Burning Crusade, the raids, of course, like Black Temple, farming Nether Drake rep forever to get that mount. That was the last time I did any mount farming, by the way. When I played WoW Classic, it obviously wasn't exactly the same as the original release, and it also wasn't exactly the same as playing a brand new MMO, but there was still a lot of fun to be had. Several months I played between the beta and the actual release of Classic WoW, and I had a really good time. It was a ton of fun. Like I said earlier, Classic WoW, the release of that was probably some of the best MMO gaming that I had that year. It was great to take a trip down memory lane, to have all of that nostalgia, to relive those experiences. Of course it's different. Of course I've already done it. We're retreading that ground, but I still really enjoyed it. And I think I would enjoy Classic Burning Crusade in much of the same way. I jump in, play with all my friends, go through that experience again. I'll give it about a month or two, and then I'll move on to something else. And I'm kind of fine with that. All right, next game on the list here that's probably going to be playable, but I don't know if we're getting the actual full release. We've got Corepunk. This is that top-down MMO with MOBA-like gameplay. Obviously, besides the perspective, you're going to be moving your character, interacting with things, and attacking enemies by clicking on them. The game has numerous classes in it. You don't build your own characters, but you pick these classes, which are kind of like preset characters in a MOBA, but they have their own masteries, which are specializations that you can pick from, system that drastically change their playstyle as well as the skills that you have access to. The whole thing is set in the seamless open world. It features this fog of war mechanic that is really meant to push the exploration. As you move through the environment, you'll come across chests filled with loot, rare monsters, wandering merchants, and even world events. There's open world PvP where that fog of war comes into play because it lets you sneak up on enemy players. And then there's a lot of traditional MMO systems, crafting and mining, arenas and battlegrounds. There are guild systems, farming, pack delivery quests, randomly generated dungeons. There's raids in the game. Corepunk, but obviously I'm gonna play New World and Burning Crusade Classic, but Corepunk has me really intrigued. I've really liked what I've seen so far. The biggest critique that myself and I think many people, I see this comment in practically every video I've made on Corepunk, is the gameplay looks really slow. The movement and the combat, it just feels a little sluggish. They've addressed this in videos. They've said you can equip pieces of gear, artifacts or whatever that increase your movement and attack speed, but still I feel like the base speed could be tuned up a little bit, maybe like 10-20% or something, I think, but I don't know. I haven't gotten my hands on it and I haven't actually played it. Maybe it's perfect the way that it is. I think Corepunk is intriguing, even though it's not the traditional MMO perspective that I'm used to. It's not like a fully 3D immersive world. It is a top-down game. I still think I could see myself enjoying this, and I am interested to see how Corepunk turns out. The next game on the list, I gotta be honest, I don't know a ton about. This game is called Elyon. It was actually originally called Ascent Infinite Realm or Air, and what we were seeing early on and what we were hearing about the game just wasn't looking that great. Well, apparently the game got a big revamp, including an overhaul to the combat, and is now called Elyon. What is up with the names of these MMOs? Anyways, this is an action combat MMO that's said to offer a mix of PvE and PvP options. Now again, I don't know a ton about this, but I did watch the Lazy Peon's video, so let's reference him. According to Peon, some of the good things of what he's experienced with Elyon is that the new combat system apparently feels really good. It's got good character creation with no gender locked classes. There's a nice mix of PvP and PvE. Like on the PvP side, there's arenas, battlegrounds, open world PvP, realm versus realm. And then for PvE fans, you've got dungeons, raids, world bosses, and player housing. There's a decent optimization, so the game runs well. Some of the bad stuff though is that even though it runs well, it doesn't look that great because it is a pretty dated game being developed on Unreal Engine 3. The leveling is apparently boring. There's loads of boring grinding, which is fairly common in Korean MMOs. Also common in Korean MMOs, the game looks to be fairly pay to win. It's got that like overly busy and flashy user interface. And his ultimate wrap up that I got from the video that he made was that Elyon looks like it could be a game that's fun for a few weeks, but probably has no long-term appeal. And from what I've seen, just like watching videos on it, that seems like it doesn't look that great, but this one appears to be a new MMO coming out in 2021. So if that's specifically what you're looking for, this one might be something worth checking out. So those are the games that are pretty sure to be coming out or playable in 2021. Some games that are possibly, maybe happening this year. We have to talk about Lost Ark again. We've been hoping for this release for years and years now. This is basically called Diablo 3, the MMO. It's got that hack and slash ARPG frantic gameplay. It looks great, and it's got a lot of MMO systems. I don't know when this is happening. Like I mentioned earlier, Amazon has taken on the role of Western publisher. So now at least we're that much closer to this thing possibly happening and coming out in the West. Lost Ark is out and playable right now, it's just not in the Western market. So you know, but the point being though is that since the game itself is complete, maybe Amazon puts the pedal to the metal on getting the localized Western version out. Then I have to mention Blue Protocol. This is just the super stylish anime MMO. I typically don't care much for anime. I just never have really gotten into it, but I love the look of this game, and I'm really, really looking forward to learning more and eventually playing this thing. Also coming out pretty certain actually in 2021, but I didn't really want to put it on my list, is Bless Unleashed. I don't know what to think of this thing. So this is basically just like Bless Online happened and failed 4 times. It released in 4 different regions, failed in all of them. You can't even play Bless Online anymore. Like, they took it off of sale, and then they took that game and they've mixed it up and changed some things, and they're re-releasing it. as Bless Unleashed, I mean, my gut reaction is that this is just an attempt to suck more money out of people from them repackaging the same game that's failed 4 times. I know it's not actually the same game. Like, apparently they've changed enough, but it's the same game. I just don't know what to think of Bless Unleashed. Maybe I shouldn't even be talking about it. And then we have some updates coming for the established MMOs. So there are new expansions planned for the Elder Scrolls Online. I think we're getting details of that tomorrow. Like, I'm recording this on Monday the 25th, and I believe on the 26th there's going to be a ton of new information about the next Elder Scrolls expansion, so that's cool. Apparently Guild Wars 2 is getting expansion. Lord of the Rings Online is getting expansion. My editor told me that Final Fantasy 14 is getting expansion. I don't know where he's getting this information, but that's what he told me. So some new updates for those big established games. That's cool. I'll probably check that stuff out. And then we've got the future, 2022 and beyond. Ashes of Creation, Crowfall, Pantheon, Camelot Unchained. Eventually, these crowd-funded Kickstarter MMOs are probably coming out, right? They've been moving along in development. Many of these are actually playable. They've got like early packages you can buy to get into the alphas or betas or whatever stage they're in. I know Ashes of Creation has had like multiple iterations. They had like this battle royale thing where they were testing out the combat changes they were making, and now they're going fully back into the MMO. And Ashes of Creation is the one thing out of all of these Kickstarter games that people seem the most excited for, and I think it's got a lot of potential, at least with the game systems that they're talking about. There's some really cool, interesting things that Ashes is doing, but overall, these Kickstarter games are just like this giant amorphous blob in my mind of things that I've been like talking about for the past 6-7 years that just like are never coming. It's like Star Citizen, basically. In my head, all these games are Star Citizen. Dual Universe is an MMO that I learned about fairly recently and actually looks really cool. It's like this sci-fi futuristic MMO with this, it's a single server, it's a giant world, and it's got a ton of player-driven systems, the economy, the construction of cities and ships and stuff. It actually, I mean, the graphics are really old looking and dated, but the systems and the game mechanics seem really cool. And then we have Amazon's crack at a Lord of the Rings MMO. They're also making a sci-fi MMO that's being headed up by John Smedley. There's Project Barbecue. There's that Riot MMO that we still know nothing about. There's some pretty cool stuff that we are looking forward to in the future. But what am I going to be playing personally in 2021? I'm going to keep playing the games that I have been, the expansions, the updates. Shadowlands has been taking up a lot of my time in the past couple of months, and I'm probably going to revisit Guild Wars 2 and ESO to check out their updates. Maybe this is the year I finally spend a lot of time with Final Fantasy 14. But for the new stuff, I can't wait to actually see a completed version of New World and what they end up delivering. I'm definitely going to jump into Classic Burning Crusade, and Corepunk is also high on my list of things that I'm interested in. I gotta say though, overall, man, being a fan of MMOs these past few years has been rough. But I really don't care what people say about this genre. I think it is the best genre in gaming, period. Honestly, nothing touches the experiences that MMOs can deliver. Exploring these massive open worlds, adventuring, collecting gear, playing with your friends, or just encountering random players in the world that you can work with or work against if you got some open world PvP going on. As far as I'm concerned, it's untouched in delivering an immersive multiplayer world. But I do totally agree with the people who say that the golden age of MMOs is kind of long gone. Like, we do have a handful of these battle-hardened veterans games where they manage to hold on to player bases for 5, 10, or 15 years, and so many others have come and gone. And most of what it looks like I'll be playing in 2021, I have been playing on and off for many years now. And while I'm more than happy to jump back into World of Warcraft, ESO, Guild Wars 2, whatever, and check out their latest updates, I want new games in my favorite genre to play. But at this point, I think there's no denying that it's not fertile ground, and modern developers aren't exactly chomping at the bit to enter into this genre, or at least they haven't been. yet. I think as technology and time pushes forward, things are changing, and I honestly feel like they're looking pretty bright. Whatever you feel about New World, Amazon is making an honest-to-goodness effort at revitalizing the MMO genre. And however New World ends up turning out, I think this is laying the groundwork for whatever they're going to do with that new Lord of the Rings MMO, or that Sci-Fi MMO that, again, is being led by industry veteran John Smedley. Regardless, though, 2021 is going to be a year where, yes, I play a lot of the MMOs I've been playing for many years now, but I'm also going to check out some new things, and I'm excited for that. I am excited for New World. I'm excited to check out Corepunk. I'm even excited to go freaking Burning Crusade. I can't believe we're playing WoW 20 years later, huh? Here we are. This is this genre. All right, that is going to do it for me today. Thank you guys for checking out my new MMOs for you to look forward to in 2021. A lot of them are old MMOs, but there are some new ones too. I'll see you in 2022, all right? We'll see how many of these games actually come out. Take it easy, guys.